Hey, mama friend. Welcome back to another episode of the Mama Mindset. And as always, I'm your host and creator, Amy Cawthron. Thank you so much for joining me again today. We are on episode 63, which is insane. So happy Monday. I love these Monday episodes. I will try and make this one short and sweet and to the point because I know your time is precious and I know how hard it is to take time away from the kids to listen and watch. By the way, this is all on YouTube also, to listen and watch some of this personal development mindset work. And I'm so proud of you. I want to let you know that I'm also so proud of you for taking the time to better yourself so that you can then go forth and better your family and present your best self to your family, because that's what we're doing here today. So if you are watching this on YouTube, you'll see I'm in my cozy flannel because we are moving towards cooler weather. It finally rained here in Idaho, and oh my goodness, I could not be more excited about that. All of us in the whole family, we were all excited. We were all soaking in the coziness of the rain and had the windows open, even though it was cool, and just kind of soaked it in and smelled it and just enjoyed it. So that being said, I am feeling extra cozy today, and I'll tell you why. Again, this is a podcast for moms, a podcast for women. So if any of my men listeners, which is typically just my husband, I feel like, and some close friends, this probably isn't going to pertain to you in the least bit. However, I say that, but I do feel like this could really help a lot of your husbands. I feel like this could really help a lot of men out there. So what we're going to talk about today is our periods. We're going to talk about our menstrual cycles. And the reason why I'm feeling extra cozy today is because I'm on my period as I'm talking to you about this today. So just full disclosure, totally transparent. This is something that happens to women, right? This is something that's a perfectly normal part of our lives. Yet I feel like we're all shockingly surprised by it when it happens. And I'm 33 years old, and finally in the last probably year, really embracing this part of myself and normalizing it and figuring it out. So what I want to talk about today is 4 steps to better prepare you for your period, to prepare yourself and your household and your family for your period, because this is something that happens every month. There's no surprise by it at all, okay? Happens to our bodies like clockwork. We can track it. You can use a calendar, you could use apps. There's a ton of stuff nowadays for us to track this normal part of our cycle, this normal part of womanhood. Yet I still feel like it just throws us all into a whirlwind. And I want to talk to you about some things that I've learned over the years, and especially within the last, I would say, year or so, maybe a little bit longer, that's really helped my household and myself prepare for this monthly cycle, this monthly thing that we already know is going to happen. So the very, very first thing, the very number one thing that I want you to do leading up to knowing that you're going to start your period the couple of days before. And again, let me remind you, I'm not a period expert and I'm not a doctor. I'm just a real woman, a real mom that's giving you some advice on things that I've learned and things that you can apply realistically within your life that I know will help you. Okay. So the first one is lowering your expectations. Just lower them. I know that we talk about that a lot in a lot of areas of motherhood and a lot of areas of womanhood, but especially leading up to your period and those low hormonal moments, those hormones are all over the place too. Just lower your expectations for what you have of yourself. Okay. Not just what you have of everybody else, but just lower the expectations that you have for yourself. This isn't going to be the best time to, dive into a brand new project or start a brand new thing or think you're going to get 20 things marked off of your to-do list. This is going to be a moment for you to take a pause and do some internal reflective work. Okay. This is going to be a time for you to throw on that flannel and get a little bit cozy leading up to it. For me personally, it's usually about 48 hours, about 24 to 48 hours before I'm going to start my period. I know I need to slow down. I need to take a pause, and I need to lower my expectations for what's going to get done. Okay, there's a lot of different ways that you can do that. There is throwing the to-do list out the window. There is canceling plans. There is doing fun things with your family that don't take a lot of effort. There is movie days. Okay, this is a perfect time for family movie nights. This is a perfect time for easy meals, just lowering your expectations of the things that you need to do or want to do to get done. And that goes into not over planning. Okay. So don't over plan within that time period. So lowering your expectations also means not over planning. Don't expect to go out and do things out of the house, a whole lot of things, maybe one thing. I'm not going to put a cap on it. You know what your limits are personally, but for me, it's really not doing much at all. It's really like staying home and finding my cozy, finding what is comfortable for me, things that aren't going to overexert me, overstimulate me, that are going to all tie into me getting really grumpy. Okay. This is talking about like you feeling grumpy and angry and emotional, things that are triggers for you. Okay. These are ways to eliminate the triggers in your life, as well as make you comfortable. Because I know that we start to get cramps, we start to hurt, our bodies hurt. I am super fatigued leading up to it. And that is I am very more aware of that. The older I get, maybe the more self-awareness I have with my body. But I get this like almost pregnancy fatigue, this huge amount of fatigue. And I know that's really common for people. My cramping doesn't start until the day I start my period. Whatever that looks like for you, but lower your expectations leading up to it, and probably the first day or two when you're on your period. Okay. Number 2 is to plan ahead. Plan ahead. Just know, okay, we talked about that period tracker. If you have your period tracker and you know that your period is coming up, plan ahead for it. Like I was saying, make some easy meals. Know that you're going to have soup and grilled cheese that day. Know that you don't need to schedule anything on your planner. If you're planning things like a month out and you already have it in your planner, okay, these 4 days, 2 days leading up to my period and 2 days leading after, or after I've started, 4 days leading up to it, I'm not going to have anything planned. Nobody's coming over. For me personally, like I'm not going to be booking an interview, just planning ahead, prepping your house, your schedule, however that looks like, but plan for it. Know that that's coming. Know that you have to lower your expectations. Know that you need to make easy meals. Know that you're going to be cozied up on the couch, or you're going to have a family movie day that day. So maybe that looks like less TV in the week because the kids are going to watch a movie for 2 days or something. However that looks like for you within your household. Number 3, we'll just go right into that, is something that I've really learned the hard way. Something that I've really had to learn the hard way is no big changes, no big decisions. Do not make any big changes or any big decisions within that time period, because this is a time for internal reflection. This is a time for you to go internal. This isn't a time for you to make a decision. You can use that time to reflect, to evaluate, to go deep within yourself, within your heart. But it's not a time for you to make a big decision, especially if you have a business. Do not please, I beg you, because you're so emotional right now. You're so emotional that your decision is going to be based too heavily on your emotional feelings. It's not going to be based enough on data or facts. You're going to be basing it on emotions, and it may not be the best emotion at that moment. Okay. So just give yourself a couple of days and then make the decision. It's okay to think about it. It's okay to look at it and say, this is making me feel a certain way. Do I need to make a change? I might need to make a change, but I'm not going to do that change right now. So just knowing that the emotions that you're feeling and the things leading up to starting your period could be a reason why you are feeling what you're feeling. And based on that, please don't make any decisions. Okay. No big decisions, no big changes. I noticed that a lot with adding on this podcast too and trying to get this business going. And I've also talked to a couple of my other mom friends that are running businesses as well. And when things are hard and you feel like you're just pushing, right? You're pushing and it feels like a square peg in a round hole and you're pushing, pushing, pushing. And then you realize that the reason why you're pushing and it doesn't feel good is because of your period, because you're in that cycle, you're in that part of your cycle, then you really take a step back and you're like, okay, yes, this is why I'm feeling this way. This is why things aren't flowing right now. Things are just not flowing. So I've had this conversation with my girlfriend and both of us have really taken big strides, especially with running businesses now, to not let that impact our business in a negative way. There's ways that you can embrace your femininity, embrace your menstrual cycle for what it is, and using that time in an appropriate way that will further your business, that will actually positively impact your business. But if you're going out and making huge changes and trying to make big decisions within that time period, it's probably not going to end well. It's not going to feel well. And at least for her and talking to other moms as well, it just doesn't feel right. You're pushing against something that isn't in a natural flow at that moment. So what you can do is reflect on some of the things that you've already done. Is this working? Is this not working? Again, no big changes at all, just doing some reflective work. So no big life decisions, no big changes. And number 4, the last one that I have, and if you take nothing else from this podcast, but this is absolutely the most important one, and I wanted to save the best for last, is communication. And I don't know if there's a lot of women that are comfortable with this, but I want you to try and get really comfortable with this, regardless if your spouse thinks he's comfortable with it or not. I want you to start communicating with your spouse and your family, your whole family your immediate family, including your children. It on a need to know basis, but your spouse needs to know leading up to you starting your period. You guys need to know. This is a natural, normal thing that happens with women. And if we can communicate it with our spouses, it sets us up for better success, both parties. Okay. And I had a conversation with Brad about this because we've been so much better about communicating with it. And I asked him, does it make you feel uncomfortable when I tell you that I'm getting ready to start my period? And he said, absolutely not. Okay. He said, I love it. I need to know that. I want 1 week. Give me 1 week before you're supposed to start, and I am better prepared. I understand what's going on. I think he can kind of give me a little bit of grace and understanding, but that doesn't mean that it's enabling me to be a bitch. Okay. That doesn't enable me. That doesn't allow me or gift me the reason to be an asshole to him. Okay. It just puts us all on the same page. And for me, I actually tend to be less of an asshole when I know that he knows I'm going through something right now. Okay. My hormones are under control of me. Like I am a little out of control because of the hormones that are going on in my body and because of this stuff that's going on with me. And he can approach it with a little more understanding. And because I know that he knows I'm a better person. Do you see how that all works and flows into each other? It's so important for him. And I'll quote you. I had to write it down. And I asked him if it was okay if I said this. He said, and he's had this conversation with other guy friends too, with other husbands. And he said, I'm too dumb to remember. Okay. Straight up. He fully admits it. I am too dumb to remember, when you're going to start your period or the reason why you're acting the way you are. And then as soon as I tell him, it's this huge light bulb aha moment and the entire energy shifts. It's this huge shift. And so now we try and take a really, really proactive approach to that part of the month, that menstrual flow. So he knows what's going to happen. And this is the reason why my wife is acting the way she's acting. And, he'll do something extra nice. He'll wash the dishes, he'll help with the kids, step in and help with the kids a little bit more. Like, for example, yesterday, I genuinely didn't do a whole lot. I just told him, like, I'm really struggling. I don't feel great. I'm super exhausted. And I really genuinely didn't do hardly anything. I read, I did some writing, I made a lunch for everybody. I did some of my normal tasks, but I didn't do anything above and beyond. He took care of dinner. We had a family movie night. And then him and I continued to watch a movie. So definitely more TV than we typically have. I took a nap yesterday. And granted, that was, a Saturday. So we had some space to do that. But if I were home by myself, I would probably have all the kids lay down and rest. I would probably rest. I would probably put a movie on and maybe rest. Like, my expectations would just be lower. I would be taking some proactive approaches. And when Brad came home, he would probably jump in a little bit quicker to know, like, I need to help finish up with dinner. I need to help with the dishes, those kinds of things. So, but he doesn't necessarily know that he needs to step up his game if my game is slacking, unless he kind of knows what's going on. So we communicate, we talk about it, and we kind of joke sometimes about it to just sort of normalize it and make it less, I don't know, formal. But I'll text him leading up to it sometimes and just say, hey, Aunt Flo's arriving in about 4 days. I don't know, it's just funny because if somebody reads his texts, I don't necessarily want them to see that I'm texting in there that I'm starting my period, although it's really not that big of a deal. Again, it's a whole normal part of womanhood, but I also like to add a little bit of humor into it for him. But, Aunt Flo's arriving in 4 days, be prepared. And he loves that. It really, really helps him. And he's talked to other men and they feel exactly the same. Just let us know. Let us know what's going on with you. It's not that we think it's weird. It's not that we think it's bad. He knows that the way I'm acting and the way I'm feeling, if I'm crying that month, mine is really inconsistent. I could have a month where I'm feeling super angry and anything sets me off and I don't want to be around people. And then I have months where I could just literally break down and cry. Like, you look at me wrong and I'm sobbing. And so he knows that's not me. He knows that's out of my control. He knows I do all of the work. Okay. He knows that I do my yoga. He knows that I do my writing. He knows that I'm eating good, drinking my water, going for my walks, trying to get quiet time, taking a bath, all of the things. Okay. We can do all of the things to plan and prep and prepare for it. And we still have those moments, and they're out of our control. I genuinely think that all of that is out of our control. We can take vitamins and supplements and all the things to help with that. But those breakdown moments, those crying moments, they're just not us. They're us temporarily. And it's all hormonal induced. I would love to have an expert come on to the podcast and talk to us about that, and in a much more, scientific way than I can. I'm not an expert in it. I'm just talking, like I said, from a personal standpoint and years of trying to really work on this, because I just don't want that week's worth of time to completely take over my household, completely take over my life and my family. I don't want people tiptoeing around me and waiting for me to just blow up at them or start crying. Those are moments that can happen, but I want them to be rare. And I want everybody to, if those moments do happen, I want everybody to understand and know where they're coming from. So what that looks like when I'm talking to the girls too, granted, I have daughters. I know that that is a little bit different than talking to boys, but I also do think that including boys in this conversation normalizes it for them when they get into school or as they get older and they have female friends, they have girlfriends, and then they move into adulthood as husbands. This just needs to be talked about as a normal state. Okay, this is normal, and it's only been really within the last 100 years that this has become this sort of negative thing. It's been celebrated in cultures for thousands of years, and for some reason in society now, it's looked down upon as like disgusting and dirty, and it's literally just this beautiful part of womanhood. And if we can embrace that as women ourselves and help our families just understand it a little bit better, everybody's going to be set up for better success. We can all take some proactive approaches. It doesn't have to be like this elaborate announcement either. It just needs to be like everybody understanding kind of what's going on within our bodies. It would be the same as if, you have a child with ADHD and you communicate as a family why they're behaving the way they're behaving. Like there's a reason behind it. It's normalized and you talk about it and you have an understanding. It's the same. To me, it's exactly the same. So what that looks like with my daughters is, I don't necessarily go out of my way to talk to them about it, but if I can feel myself having a rough moment or a rough day, or if I am a little bit grumpy, like I just tell them, I just talk to them. I say, listen, mom's getting ready to start her period and I'm feeling a little emotional today. I'm feeling a little bit triggered by small things today and I don't want to get grumpy and I don't want to be upset at you. So we're just going to take it a little slower, and if that means canceling plans, like I've canceled plans to like the library, for example, because I can't that day. I cannot get up. I can't get out of the house. I don't want to see a bunch of other people because I'm just really afraid that all of those things are going to trigger me. And I don't have the self-control within that moment, within that day, to handle situations that come to me. So it's best for us to cancel a plan and stay home. And that's perfectly okay. That's perfectly okay. And I tell the girls kind of what's going on. I explain it to them in a very age appropriate way. And we move on with our day and they understand. And they're at a point now where they understand because I've done that enough times. It may be a little uncomfortable at first. It may be a little challenging at first, but in my house, the way we raise the girls is I normalize bodily functions. I normalize what happens in your body because I have 3 daughters. I have to explain these things to them. I have to make sure that they understand what's going on with me because that's going to happen to them in the nearer than later future. I want everybody to be on the same page. I want everybody to understand what's going on and take those proactive steps, excuse me. And like Brad said, it just kind of cracked me up because I was like, can I say that on my podcast that you said that? And he said, absolutely, because I'm not afraid to admit it. But he's like, we are too dumb to know. We are too dumb to remember. And so we're just sitting here scratching our heads like, what the fuck is going on? I don't understand who she is right now. I don't understand. And they just are literally too dumb to remember. They're too, they're not in sync with the feminine flow enough to remember, oh, I bet she's getting ready to start her period. Now, here is a touchy subject. Okay. This is something that he brought up that I'm going to try and explain in the best way possible, but I want everybody to take caution to this, okay? Especially if there's any men listening. You have to approach this very, very cautiously because I, for one, get very triggered depending on how Brad brings it up. But if there is a moment when you're feeling or when you're acting more emotional, whether that's angry, pissed off, triggered, whatever, you're just set off or you're crying, there are ways and there are moments that they can come in and say, I understand how you're feeling right now, or I see that you're really upset right now. Please remember that you're getting ready to start your period in a couple of days. And I know that this is not the normal you, that this is some of your hormones that are creating this reaction, and then just give her a hug. Like sometimes all I need is a hug. Chances are good I'll probably start bawling, but sometimes that's all we need, is an understanding in a gentle reminder of what's going on. It doesn't need to be like, oh gosh, her period's coming, or talk about PMS this week. Like that's super, super negative. It needs to be a very positive approach to understanding the fact that this is what's going on in your body. I understand what's going on in your body right now. So let's just lower our expectations for the day. Let's just put a movie in. Let's just sit down and read a book, something like that. So if I can, like I've had that conversation with Brad when I call him, when I talked on the podcast before that we do We try and touch base usually on his lunch break and just do like a daily check-in. And if I tell him like, I'm really struggling today, I'm feeling incredibly emotional, I can't get my shit together, I've done all these things, and he can just say, because he knows, I want you to remember that you're getting ready to start your period. And just like even thinking about it right now could make me emotional because, or is making me emotional because he's so understanding of it. But that conversation is so helpful. I want you to understand that you're getting ready to start your period. So maybe what you need to do today is just put a movie in for the kids, like we'll just do something really simple for dinner. We can do peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, like something super, super easy. But if he approaches it in that way, and then I can be like, you're right. Like it gives me the grace to understand that this is actually what's going on with my body right now. It has nothing to do with me. I'm not making a mistake. I'm not a bad person. I'm not a bad mother. I'm not a bad wife. Any of those things, all of that negative self-talk that you start to have can go out the window with a simple conversation with your spouse and a simple understanding of what's going on in that moment. Because we don't always take the time to give ourselves that grace and understanding. So, like going back to your business or going back to your household projects, it doesn't have to be like this push, push, push thing when you're like, I can't get anything done. I'm not getting this shit accomplished. What is wrong with me? Why am I not doing these things? Why can't I accomplish any of this stuff? And then you take a pause and you realize, well, I'm getting ready to start my fucking period. Like, of course I can't get this stuff done. My mind isn't focused on the things that it should be focused on because my body is going through this physical act. Like something is going on in my body. So you cannot fit a square peg in a round hole in those moments. So those 4 things, I'll repeat them again, just really fast. Lowering your expectations. Please plan ahead. No big life decisions, no big changes. And then number 4 is communicate with your spouse. Communicate with your family, but especially your spouse, especially your partner. So write those 4 things down. Come back to this podcast when you're, getting ready to start your period or you're on your period. And I want you to know that the way that you're feeling is completely normal. Okay. The way that you're feeling is how all of us feel. We are all emotional. We're all a little bit grumpy, but there are proactive steps that we can take, a proactive approach to this thing that happens every single month. You know that it's going to happen every single month. And now we can shift that mindset, okay, from it being this huge burden to embracing a period of slowness. Period of slowness. See what I did there? This moment of slowness, okay? This moment of cozy, this moment of calm. That's what your body's needing. That's what your body's screaming at you to do. Your body's not screaming at you to make these big life decisions and to go over the top and to do all these things. Now, I've also heard of women running marathons, like full marathons when they're on their period. It's totally possible. Okay. Sometimes you have this huge spurt of energy after you've started and lean into that. Okay. What I'm talking about is the days leading up to it and the moment of like that 4 days. And maybe this isn't exactly how your cycle works, but I encourage you to do some reflective work, maybe make some notes in a journal on the days leading up to it and your period. Just kind of write down how you're feeling. I know that there's some period trackers that allow you to do that, what's going on in your body, what's going on in your heart and in your soul, and then reflect on that. Do that for a couple of months and track it and see if there's any commonalities in there. See if anything syncs up so where you're like, okay, this is an area that I can definitely plan for. I know that I have an energy spurt, a huge energy spurt 2 days into my period, but 2 days leading up to my period, I am exhausted. I feel like crap and I've been sad every single time. Or I'm exhausted. I feel like crap and I'm super triggered, which means I need to give myself space from my family. I need to maybe take a bath that night, maybe I'm not going to do dinner for my family. I'm going to ask my husband if he can do that. So communicate with your spouse. That's the biggest one. I think it's the most important one to just make sure that everybody is on the same page. So like I said, take some notes on this. Come back to this podcast leading up to your period or when you're on your period. Just know we're all in the same boat. but we can take some proactive approaches to minimize the problems that you're having within that time and maximize what you can put forth into the universe based on the situation that you're in. So please remember that I believe in you, I care about you, and I'm so incredibly proud of you. So go be cozy, sweet mama, and I will talk to you again soon.